Welcome to the first episode of the TL podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the effects of media on the government, and this one's for Mr. Jackson out there. Thank you for watching. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Matthew Kalemba, and Matthew Kalemba is here with me.
So, what are we talking about today, Christian?
We're talking about the influence of media on the government. Yeah, fun stuff. So I guess to start off, media means basically anything that is like put on the internet that people read, look at, view, that sort of thing.
So pretty much like how, kind of like it interacts, how the public's informed on their information.
Yeah, all information based, yeah. Well,
All right.
Generally, yes. What should we talk about first?
Well, I found this article online about the details the impact of the media on the American government. This was a few years ago, and it talks about the cultivation theory. Do you have any idea about the cultivation theory?
I do. Well, it was hypothesized that media developed a person's view of the world. It converted them into a certain belief it was stuff that they saw when they read the newspaper in this case, or like in our case right now, Instagram, Snapchat, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Well, also there's framing too when they use their outlet to kind of create a story by the context that's in it. It's not like, have you ever seen an interview of a politician where they use just specific sound bites and it completely changes what that politician might have meant?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the media influencing what the audience sees so that way the media is controlling the opinion that they want their audience to have.
Exactly, and this has happened many times in the past as well. Stuff like radio, first in November, this date specifically, November 2nd, 1920, the KDKA in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, came as a first station to broadcast the election results as a start of this sort of media involving the government. And this was the Harding versus Cox presidential race back in that time.
Well, also up to date now, stations like Fox News, MSNBC are very overt in their use of biased information, which is definitely one skews very Democratic, one skews very Republican, and that's where the media gets into the political party agenda.
Right. And some of the first televised versions of this was Nixon versus Kennedy in 1960. It brought the politics to the living room. Back in this time, most families had their first TV, so they pulled back to their first TV, and it broadcasted the discussions, some of the candidates' issues and stuff like that, so that people in their homes would be able to see this type of thing. And it just furthered itself to the personal lives of the community.
Recent studies suggest that media exposure can have a sizable impact in shaping the public's political knowledge and behaviors when it comes to voting, polling, and all that stuff, which I definitely think is a huge contributing factor, which is what we've been discussing. There was this one experiment they did when they took two newspapers. One was very conservative, one was very democratic, and what they did with those two papers is they gave out free subscriptions for about a month. They monitored people's internet activity and seeing like where their views were. Surprisingly, not trying to get political at all, but after this test, there was an overall 7.2% point increase in the likelihood that after having both newspapers, people went more Democratic with their candidate, and the fact could be due to that the Republicans' president's approval ratings were falling, and whenever someone's approval ratings fall, normally people tend to go to a different party.
As probably the last part of this article will discuss how much people see this media type of thing. I know you may not think they all exist, but Canadians exist, and people in Canada did this research where they studied their teens and their exposure to the media that their outlets were, and a lot of them came up as it definitely affected the way that they thought about things, where it is to the food they ate, the stuff they bought, and even the parties they affiliated themselves with. And it was quite interesting because even though it affected those things, it also affected their mood, how well they felt about themselves, and all the types of things that follow with that.
Now it's television, which is the biggest industry where the audience is cultivated at home. They're just in front of their screen, and I hate to say it, but sometimes people will believe whatever they see on their screen.
Of course, because it's put in front of them, and it's not like it's there. It's on broadcasted networks, and they don't think about it. It's just another thing. Oh, hey, look, they're talking about this. Of course it must be true. It's on live television. Why wouldn't it be? And people need to look for the bias because it's obviously going to affect the way that they think, and then whatever the government wants is going to output on the people. And that's basically it. As the government outputs whatever they want on basically all media networks through all the stuff that we watch, Instagram news stories, Facebook news stories, especially as they're being very biased at times, and just through regular media news, Fox, CNN, all that type of stuff. Thanks for watching.
All right, bye. I don't know the hotkey to stop recording.
Train wreck. I don't know what the hotkey is. Stop recording.
I got to run over.